Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another edition of Swerve with me. I'm Miranda Innes, and as always, it's a pleasure having you join us tonight. Swerve with me is a show for adults. We have adult conversations for mature audiences only. And tonight, it gives me great pleasure to welcome to the show tonight, a brother, a friend. I'm not even sure exactly when we met, and I know it wasn't even that often that we met, but like-minded people and spirits connect, and
Yes.
that's brought us to this place tonight. So I'm happy to welcome to this platform tonight, Pastor Edwin Beckles. So good to see you, bro.
Thank you, my sister. I'm just happy to be here. To you, your audience, I want to thank you for allowing me to come just to share however the Lord will lead and however you direct us in this interview. But I'm excited for what God is doing through you, and I'm prepared to tell my story. Amen.
Thank you so much. So, listen, guys, you know what the routine is. Go ahead, like and share this live stream because we're going to get into some conversations that I have no doubt are going to stretch some people's minds and be a blessing to someone out there who may be going through and trying to navigate their way through some tumultuous storms at this particular time. So, let's start at the beginning. I always like to get down to the get down. Born and raised in Grand Bahama, Freeport to be precise. A family of six siblings,
Yes, yes.
two-parent home. What was life like in the Beckles household growing up?
Man, listen, life was fun. Six siblings, five boys. Uh, the noisiest time in our house was food dinner time. The neighbors knew when mama was cooking and ready to feed. We fought for food because that's what it was. You know, my mama had this thing: the first rat get in the hole, his tail is covered. And so we never had a dull moment. We grew up in a lot of love. All my life as a child, I had two parents, and it was
Mhm,
always a pleasure coming home. We were challenged in our home, of course. We were the church kids. We did
mhm.
everything you could name in the church because mama drove us to church. And because she had a lot of kids, anytime there was something to do in the church, she made us do it. So it became a part of who we were. Just
Mhm.
growing up, it wasn't no if you go in the church. No, you go in the church. Glory to
Okay.
God. And so
Okay.
that's how we were raised. It was just a pleasure. I know what it is to come home every evening and sit down, eat family dinner together because
Mhm,
that's what my dad was into. That's what my mom she did. She cooked. She cooked almost every day,
mhm.
and so this is what it was like working, living in our home. Just a lot of fun, laughter, and joy.
When we did the pre-interview, the one thing you said to me was like you pretty much had like a Jeremiah experience from the mother's womb. You were called, but how early was it for you that you knew that there was something different about you?
Early, Miranda, believe it or not, I didn't know what it was. I couldn't say what it was. I didn't know. Um, I had, like I said, I had a lot of siblings. I was right there in the middle. Uh, I used to sit my brothers down on the bed. I used to wrap a sheet around me, and I used to preach to them with a comb or brush in my hand and make them sit and listen to me. And I remember, I think I knew for a fact, not think, I know for a fact I was 7 years old. I walk into my mother's bedroom with a Bible in my hand and said, Mama, when I get older, I want to be a preacher.
Hmm.
And I said, this is going to be my first sermon. I'll never forget it. I turned to the book of Psalms, and in Psalms it says, the fool that said in his heart, there is no God. I said, Mama, my topic going to be, don't let the fool you.
At 7 years old.
Yes. And I told me that at 7 years old,
That's incredible.
it was just different. It was unique. And it was one of those moments that I never forgot. I just never did.
And so, what was it like going through school, primary school, junior high, high school? Because it can't be easy being a Christian and a teenager, or going through school. If you like me, you had the salvation experience several times before it finally stuck.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
tell us your story.
Absolutely. Well, early, as far as my primary experience, my primary school experience, there was always from teachers and even the cliques in the classroom, I was always the ringleader.
Okay.
So there was always some level of leadership around there. And so when I went I went from Walter Parker. That was my primary school. We opened when Walter Parker. I'm an original Walter Parker. When Walter Parker opened, I started in grade 1, and so I came all to Walter Parker. As far as growing up in church, trying to be saved in school, but also trying to fit in and lead the pack. And sometimes leading the pack, you get into mischief. Mm-hmm. And I remember a few times going to the principal's office, and the principal saying to me and my clique, telling me, "You have so many Christian principals. Why you don't teach them something?" And only to find out you the ringleader behind all this mischief. Mm-hmm. You know, and so it was a challenge. I wouldn't say it was a challenge because you love God. That didn't stop, but just mischievous ways, trying to fit in when you get to the school and be like everybody else. It was just a struggle in that area. And so you try to balance that the best way you can, because you know when you get to church on Sunday morning, you got to lead something, you got to do something. So Saturday night, you spend all night repenting so you can be right to function on Sunday morning. Yes, that's what it was.
So involved in ministry as a teenager, and when at 18 something traumatic happened that changed the trajectory of your family forever. Tell us what happened.
Well, first of all, I preached my first message at the age of 12. Okay. When we got to 18 and our whole family, because my mother was the pillar of our home. She was the strength. She was the prayer warrior. My mom passed away when I was 18 years old, and that kind of shattered the whole family.
At this point, you were already out of high school and working?
I was already out of high school. I was working. However, my mom was sick 2 years before she died. Mm-hmm. My mom was battling cancer, and you know the whole story behind that, the chemotherapy, the hair falling off, the weight falling off. And so it was around the clock. I watched my mom weight dwindle before she passed away. And I'm going to be totally transparent and honest with you.
That's what we want.
I got to the point, because I believe in faith. Faith was instilled in our family. We believe in God. We believe in life after death. Just watching my mom suffer, I got to the point where I said, "Lord, before I see my mom suffer like this, I prefer you to take her. Because I believe if you take her, she's going to be in your hand, which is going to be in better care." Mm-hmm. Because I remember the nights, and see all of this, you carry all this as you grow. And before mom passed away, mom couldn't eat. So we spent up all night feeding her just ice, just to keep her body cool. Because apparently chemotherapy burns you inside and all that other stuff. And so we just sit up all night and feed her ice cube. My sister and I, who was at the age of 12, we would have to bathe mama. My other brothers couldn't do it. They weren't strong enough. They just couldn't see in that position. So I know what it is to lift her in the tub, wash her up, put on her clothes and all this other good stuff. I'll put her back in the bed so she can be comfortable. And then in March, mama passed away.
What year was that?
97. It was 97. Mom passed away early that morning. I was on the road taking a friend to work. Somebody stopped me while I was picking that friend up. They came and looked at me and said, "Man, I just got to tell you, man, your mom passed away." And so it was one of those, even though you had a 2-year journey where you saw things gradually and slowly, but when that hit you, when it finally, even I got to the point where I was willing to release, but just hearing those words that your mother had passed away, it was a shattering moment. It was just it was a reality moment.
How did her death change your life?
It was one of those moments where I had to, first of all, it was a nerve-wracking moment. Okay? Just transparent. It was a moment of, wow, what to do next? Where do we go from here? And here's why. It was not just me. I had a 12-year-old sister. Who's now the only girl in the house, because I have one sister. She was the baby. I have 4 brothers. And it was like, okay, we're here. What do we do next? We got this 12-year-old girl. None of us know nothing but raising no girl. We ain't not no girl. She haven't even reached puberty and all that other stuff she got to go through. We don't even know what to tell her. So it was a moment of, you could have taken this moment and allow this to be an excuse for everything in your life that go wrong from here. Or you could have grabbed a hold of everything mama taught you, pick yourself up, and run in a forward position.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you gather yourself, you get over all the grieving, you go back to some type of normalcy and working, you decide to, wait a minute. I found myself saying this a whole lot after mama died. If mama was here, how would she handle this?
So
If mama was,
how connected, because you talked about you and your sibling, how connected was the relationship with your father in terms of leading, or what was happening in the dynamics in that relationship after your mom passed?
my daddy was, during my mom's time, my daddy was the father who worked, put the check on the dresser, and mama did what she wanted to do. He just had certain ways he wanted his house to run, and she knew what that was. And as long as those parts was covered, he was good. Whatever she did, he was fine with that. Mm-hmm. And so my daddy, as far as principles, he believed in that. My daddy did not run what you would call a slack house in the Bahamian term. He believed in running his house, and he did it a certain way. He knew he had all boys. So there's certain principles and stuff he made sure. But hey, don't play that. Don't play that in my house. He put his foot down when he had to. But as far as, he spent a lot of time on the strips. My daddy spent a lot of time on the street shooting dice and doing that kind of stuff. That was just who he was. Monday to Friday, he go to work. But on the weekend, he on the strips.
So day to day, who was tasked with the responsibility of really working with your sister? Did aunties and that extended family kind of kick in to help out?
None whatsoever. She didn't want to go live with none of them. She wanted to stay with us. I took the lead in that. I took the lead, and the reason I did was because prior to mama's death, I probably spent more time with mama than any one of my brothers. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of stuff I'd learned just hanging with mama domestically. There were some things mama taught me my other brothers just wasn't into. Mm-hmm. You know, I did most of the domestic stuff. I helped mama clean the house, and we all can cook. But as far as sticking in the house, doing the cleaning and all that stuff, because I was the one called, I went to most of the prayer meetings, the 5 a.m. prayer meetings. If mama needed someone to go to the grocery store with her, go to prayer meeting with her, I was in the car. Mm-hmm. And so after mama died, well, we look at my sister, me and my brother who's right above me. And we decided to pull together because we had more of the leadership mind. We had more of the leadership mindset. Not that we were better than our other brothers. We just had a more focus when it comes to structure and leadership. And me and him pulled together. He worked with me, and I said, okay, baby girl, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to work this. So I became, when she got in problems in school and all that stuff, I was the one who showed her. I became that big brother, father figure to her because that became my ultimate responsibility.
Okay. And you took that on at 18?
18.
And so you cared for her and tell us the story that you shared briefly about one day she was hungry and you was at work and she was about 12 or 13 years old.
Absolutely. Because first of all, we dropped her off at school, picked her up. If she wanted something to eat, we'll leave the job to come and make sure she got something to eat. Hey, listen, don't you open this door for nobody. That's how mama taught us, man. We were younger, you know? And so one time she called me. She was hungry. The kitchen, I used to cook then in Alukaya. The kitchen got real busy. I couldn't move, couldn't send nobody because we were extremely busy. And I said, listen, I'm going to teach you how to cook tonight. And the way we're going to do this over the phone. I'm going to give you instructions step by step on how to cook yourself some rice. And I can't remember what type of meat it was, but you're going to get something to eat tonight. I said, listen, here's what you're going to do. You're going to put the water in the pot. You're going to boil the water, and I'm coming back to tell you what to do next.
So you took it through all of those
process. The whole
and you were able to come over. The house wasn't burned down or anything. You had something to eat.
No. And that's just one of the things I believe, and now that I look back, it's all about making it happen. Doing your best to just make it happen, rather than, like I said, we could have taken that moment in our lives and use it for excuse for the rest of our lives. Man, I can't do this. Or use it as a crutch, as to say why we turned out to be who we were. But we decided to pull together because there's always strength in unity, there's strength in love. And by the grace of God, man, based on the principles that were instilled in us, we were able to pull through.
So let's talk about now. You eventually you have this call on of God on your life, and you're working at Alukaya, but you're also active in ministry. What made you make the decision to go to Bible school?
Well, first of all, before Mama left, before Mama died, Mama wanted me to leave high school and go straight to Bible college.
Okay.
I remember, I can't remember what year it was. You probably can remember because you covered a lot of stories. Pastor Rod Parsley came to Grand Bahama. He was in
Oh
the
yeah.
Camelot room.
The
Mama,
first time.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mama told me to go to the service. So I went, and she told me when I went there, man, it was so crowded. I sat all the way back in the Camelot room. That's how crowded it was. And as soon as I got back home, she said, "Did you get the application for the school?" Because figure, he would have brought his information for the Bible college. And I told her, nah, because I just wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared to do that then. That was not the first thing on my mind. Even though I knew I had a call on my life, I wasn't to the place where I was sold out. I
How
still had a little
old
more
were
play
you
in
at
me.
that particular time? How old were you?
I was still 18, 19,
Okay.
still young teenager, running around with girlfriend and just trying to. I got time. I got plenty of time to get to God. I want to do me right now.
Mm-hmm.
But while I was working, here's the thing, and this is the thing about most people who have a call on their life that they probably understand this. I will say this to you, Miranda. Even though I was working in Alukaya, man, I spent a lot of time in there, working, moving, helping, doing whatever we could have done. While I was working, man, I find myself in the kitchen preaching. I flipping the hamburgers, flipping the meat, the onions, and cutting all that up, and I'm preaching to the cutting board because it was so bad to the point where my co-workers started telling me, "Man, why you don't go do what God is calling you to do?" Because it was so evident
Mm-hmm.
that there was. And what happened was, even though I was working there, what I would call comfortable, I wasn't peaceful
Mm-hmm.
because it was not what I was mandated to do. It was not what God had initially positioned me to do. So even though I was trying to do my own thing, the call of God was so strong on my life that no matter what I did,
Mm-hmm.
the preacher man came out.
When was it that you finally decided I'm going to Bible school? And what constituted that particular decision?
Some If I can say this word, I don't know if I can say this. Somebody scared the hell out of me.
Okay.
Somebody scared the hell out of me. My sister had already graduated because that became our responsibility. She graduated from high school, no babies. She decided to do some courses in gambling, to go in the casino and all that. So she was heading in her own direction. So she was able to stand on 2 feet. And so now at this point, I'm now focusing on what the call is. I'm still working at the hotel, but the seriousness of the call is now beginning to settle in. So I found myself more active doing ministry, and I was sitting on a front row of a service in a revival service, and the speaker. I never forget this day. This day shook my whole life. This was the turning point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the speaker came down from the podium, put a finger in my face, and said, "God said, if you don't move now, you're going to wish you did."
Hmm.
And she said, "You know
Scared the
exactly."
hell out of you, just like you said.
She she said, "You know exactly what I'm talking about."
Do you remember who that particular preacher was?
I remember her clear as day. I
Who
tell her
was
about
it?
it today.
Who was
Everybody
it?
know her. She's on
Who?
Facebook all the time. Her name is Prophetess Quinty Says.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I tell her that all the time. She prophesied me on the Grand Bahama.
Okay.
And it was a moment of that whole night I did not sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I did not sleep because now I have to make some decisions that I have to make. Not that I want to make, I have to make in order to do what I need to do. First of all, I have such a great relationship with my bosses at the job. How I'm going to tell them this is it. So I
Right.
struggle with all of that. But the whole night after I got that message, man, I tossed and turned. I woke up the next day. as clear as day. I woke up the next day, jump on my feet, and I went to my brother. He and I were staying together in the house Mama left with us. And I said, bro, this is it. I'm at December 31st, my last day on that job. I'm going to enroll in Bible college in the month of January. My brother, his only reply to me was this: I don't know what you are waiting on.
Okay. So how much time between when you said that and December? How many months was that?
2 months.
2 months. Okay.
2 months. And so what I did was I sold everything I had. Everything I had, paid off any bills that we had outstanding at the house. I didn't want to leave my brother hanging. I wanted to be responsible. Because we shared everything, just as families, trying to do what we could do to survive. And whatever we had outstanding, I sold whatever I had. Boom. I paid for 1 year, because I had to do that being an international student. I paid for 1 year of college up front. And I started the journey. I was on the plane January 5th in 2003. Never been to where I was going. Didn't know nobody from Adam.
So let's talk about that. This is where the story gets gooder and gooder, like my old pastor used to say, gooder and gooder. So you get to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Is that it? Tulsa?
Columbus,
Ohio. Sorry. And it's your first time there, and it's January, so obviously it's cold. It's cold. Once you got there, and obviously somebody's there to meet you at the airport, what are you thinking at the time? Are you feeling like, okay, all right, let's get it on? Are you thinking, what have I just gotten myself into? Like, what are your thoughts at that time?
Well, the night before, there was a lot of excitement built up in me because I had a lot of farewell. A lot of the friends from the job came. But Beck, take it easy. Whoever wanted to give a donation or whatever did that. Just a lot of farewell. We had a nice little fellowship. And so I laid down that night, anticipating the journey. But, you can't really sleep because the mind is going all over the place. Now I'm going to take about a 7-hour between connecting flights to get where I need to go. And so I hopped on the plane, just being normal. And Miranda, I'm going to be honest with you. That's when everything fall apart. In my own personal space in that moment, I felt like I was making the biggest mistake of my life. Even though I'm going to be honest with you, even though I believe I had a word from God, even though I believe this was a mission that I had to go on, Mama purposed it, the word of the Lord spoken. As I sat in that plane, there was a level of loneliness I've never felt in my life because I've never been away, to say, from my family. I'm going to a place I've never been. I'm walking into a totally unknown situation. And I felt like I made the biggest mistake of my life.
For a moment, it was a temporary feeling of fear that engulfed you at that particular time. And quite frankly, it's not abnormal. You didn't know that at the time, but it's really not abnormal when you're stepping into the unknown. And that's what we call a leap of faith. You're going into something you don't know what to expect. Now, let me ask you this because we got to move you along. Did you, when you left to go into World Harvest, it was Bible school, did you know anybody there at the time?
No, I did not know. I only heard while I was in Grand Bahama that Bishop Wilson was going there, but we never connected in Grand Bahama to even say when we get there we're going to connect there. So at this point, I don't know who's there. I don't know nobody there. I'm walking.
You don't. When you say Bishop Will, you mean LaQuest?
Yes, I mean LaQuest.
Oh, you mean LaQuest was there? Okay.
Yeah, LaQuest.
And you heard that he was there. Were you guys friends or anything connected in any way before you left?
The only thing I knew about the Williams family was, of course, Bishop Will being a great man of God, but I knew his wife because she taught me in school. And so that's the only thing I knew about that family. I just knew who they were in the community and her because she was my teacher. My homeroom teacher had that too. So I knew a lot about her. And
So let
one,
me just read this quick comment that I just happened to see. Lyndon Lundy says he stole my favorite teacher's heart. You
yes,
stole his
yes,
favorite,
I
whoever
became
that is.
because Mother Will sat me right at her desk.
So you was
I
teacher's
sat.
pet.
Well, I was so mischievous and troublesome. That was the
Oh, she had to
safest place for her to
watch
put me.
you.
Yeah, that was the safest place to put me. Was right next to her desk. Because
Okay.
I'll never forget, she told my mama, your child is so mischievous. When he does something, I just have to turn away and laugh so I won't encourage him.
Okay.
But but she
So let's move on. I just had to interject that particular comment since you were talking about school. So let's get back to you. You're in Tulsa. You get on the flight. You have this initial fear, like, oh, I've made this big mistake, but then now you're in
well,
town,
when I
and,
got there, I'm actually coming off the flight.
mhm,
I'm frozen. I'm a Bahamian. I don't do
mhm.
snow and ice, and everybody is icy. I'm dressed from head to toe like I'm a ninja, hair covered from head to toe, wrap around. So the international student advisor walked straight up to me and say, Edwin Beckles. And I smiled. I said, how do you know? She said, all of my Caribbean students, when I see them, they are dressed just like you because they're afraid of the cold.
Okay.
Now, here's where it gets worse. She drops me off at the dorms.
Mhm,
So as I get to the dorm, I fall down on the ice. I said, see, this is the same thing. I'm not used to this.
mhm.
Then they tore me in the dorms. When I get to the dorms, now remember, I'm a chef. When I get to the dorms, they give me a room to share with somebody that's probably a 4x4 with a bunk bed. There is no stove, so I can't cook.
No, you
All we
can't
have
cook
is
in the room.
a microwave. And right
Mhm.
then I was about to turn around. Let me get on the next flight heading back to Grand Bahama. I know I can get my job back. Let me get back. I'm Mr. Halukaya. I'm not coming to a place where I'm going to eat no microwave food. No, sir.
Mhm.
Uh-uh. I was lonely. I was worried. I was concerned. And not to mention, Miranda, I think this is important too. When I left Grand Bahama and did everything I did, I had $600 and my suitcase. That was it.
Mhm.
Don't know what the next. So there was a lot of emotions going on. I was
Yeah.
fearful. I thought I was made a mistake. I was worried. And now I'm in this hole with these people I don't know. Oh no, let me
Mhm.
go back home. I'm going back home.
What was the adjustment like being in a room with where was your roommate from, first of all?
Well, he was from Louisiana.
Okay. So what was it like? How did you connect? Did you have any kind of interpersonal skills to connect with the person?
Well, me being a people's person, it was good because what they did
Okay.
too was because of my age, they connected me with somebody who was in my age bracket. Most of
So
the
you
kids in
were
the
what
dorms,
age? What age was that?
25.
Okay. So you were a little older. It wasn't like,
Yeah.
okay.
Most of the
Okay.
kids in the dorm are 18, 17, 18, 19. So they tried to put me with somebody who was my age bracket. So we connected with no problem.
Okay.
But my stay in the dorm didn't last that long. I couldn't do it.
Because you didn't have a stove?
But I just couldn't. No, I couldn't do it. And then they had curfew at 9 o'clock. Big grown man like me. I'm 25 years old.
Okay.
I gotta be home at 9
Mhm.
on the weekend. Curfew extend till 11. Oh no, that didn't last long. Oh no, that didn't last long.
So let's speed up the story because we have a long way to go. So you get through that dorm experience. How did you move out of the dorm and who did you end up living with?
When I went to orientation the next day, I went to orientation. All the new students were coming in, introducing, and there was a guy stood up, and the first thing he said, "I'm from Freeport, Bahamas." And when he said that, I look up, and it was J.C. Wallace's son, Jerome Wallace.
Okay.
And when he said that, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be totally honest with you. When he said that, everything in me changed. My emotions changed because now I found somebody I could connect with.
Okay.
So now, after orientation, I met him in the hallway. He said, bro, man, me and LaQuez stay together in our apartment. He said, my
Mhm.
mom was here. She gonna be here for about a month. And we in the apartment. Trust me when I told you, I found that apartment. Glory to God. I found that apartment because I
Okay.
wanted my own. I looking for my people because I'm
Mhm.
in a strange town. My comfort is my people.
Okay.
So as soon as I connected with them, his mom stayed, she cooked, we eat. But as soon as she went back, I found my way over there. I never left.
Okay. So here you are, the three musketeers living together throughout. What was it, a 2-year program?
Yeah, it was a 2-year program.
2-year
So like
program.
we could have made it 3. Yeah.
Okay. So you're getting together, you're going through classes. What was the first class like? Like, was it what you expected Bible school to be like, or you just had no idea of what to expect?
Yeah, I did not know what to expect. So what I did was I took a course called College Success. And that was my first class to go in that. I felt like if I'm going to be successful, let me take this class so this class can tell me how to be successful. So, they went through the process on the reading and the assignments and all that stuff. So the first thing I did, I got that understanding. But after that, once I connected with my brothers in the Bahamas, this is LaQuare's second semester. So he's already known around the school, Quasi and boom, boom, boom. And so now, of course, we Bahamians, or the terminology we use, we as Bahamians, we became popular around the school immediately.
Okay.
Because the way we talk, number one. Number two, the way we greet people. Matter of fact, it was so bad that the administrators of the school had to call us in a meeting so we could tone down our greeting.
So what was the greeting?
Well, we are huggers. We are embracers.
Oh, okay.
So apparently while we was embracing the younger ladies in the school, they were going crazy. Oh, he likes me. Oh, he this, he that. And because that's who we are. When we see you, we're going to embrace you. That's our culture. And so because of that, they told us to kind of tone it down and, watch how we greet the ladies, try to just shake their hand or, stuff like that. And
okay. So you were too touchy-feely for them.
Yeah, but
that was a bit too much. Yeah.
Yeah, they could not.
Yeah, that's Bahamians. That's how we are. We like to feel you or reach out and touch.
Yeah.
So within your first semester, you actually met who would become your wife.
And yes, and this is, first of all, let me say this. I want to say this clear. I was one of those. I love my country. I'm a Bahamian man. I love the Bahamas. Born and raised in the Bahamas. If you name the campaign, I was a part of it. It's Better in the Bahamas, Clean Up Grand Bahama. I was a part of all the tourism campaign because I love my country. So when I left the Bahamas with the total mindset to come back to the Bahamas because that was my homeland. That's where I wanted to be. And in the mindset of coming back to the Bahamas, I asked all of my roommates and friends around us, I was dogmatic that I would never marry an American. I would marry a Bahamian. And I remember my spiritual father, Reverend Mack. Pastor Mack used to always say, son, never say never.
Are you referring to Frederick McElpine?
Yes, that's my spiritual dad. He always used to tell me, son, never say never, because you just never know. But I was dogmatic around the school, and I came to school in January. Now we got voice. Now people beginning to know us. We become popular because now we hang with Quasi and all this other stuff. And so when we have Bahamian fellowship,
LaQuest was the man on campus, and
yeah. By the time he came around, he paved the way. Everybody knew us by then. First of all, the way we dress, because everywhere we go, we can put on clothes. And then I became the chef. They found I could cook. So what Quasi did was used to invite the whole dorms to our apartment because he gonna cook. Hey, my boy gonna cook it up. Y'all can come. So we had life for the party. So while we gathering and partying, I used to tell them, "Wait, listen, I ain't know but y'all. I ain't gonna marry one of my Bahamian woman because ain't nothing sweeter than a Bahamian woman." I used to tell them that bold and unapologetic, not knowing that in God's divine plan there was a shifting about to take place. It was not. I didn't come looking for that. I didn't go to Bible college looking for a wife. I was coming home. I was coming home to do that. And so one day I was sitting down with another guy in what we call the Spot. The Spot is a restaurant place at our college where we buy coffee and hot chocolate and little donuts and pastries. When I got there, he and I were discussing a Bible discussion. This young lady walks up. She walks up in the discussion and said, there seems to be a very interesting conversation. Can I join you guys? And me being who I am, oh yeah, take a seat. I have no problem with that. Take a seat. And Miranda, I kid you not, first time ever happened to me in my life. First time ever happened to me in my life. When that young lady sat down in the chair, something leaped on the inside of me. Never felt like that in my life. I ain't
Not
talking
even
about,
in church.
listen,
Something leaping on the inside.
something leap. You know what I'm talking about? How your baby leap?
Oh,
My baby leap.
okay. So did you? So don't go too fast. So by your baby leaping, as you say, did you know like immediately this woman is for me, or there's something about her?
Mm-hmm.
What did the leaping mean? What did you interpret that as?
Well, at first I played it off, but when I left the chair and went to my roommate, who was J.C. Wallace's son, Jerome Wallace, I said, Jerome, I think I just met my wife. Yes.
Okay.
I walked to him and I said, you see that daughter right there? She's going to be my wife. Now, there's something interesting about this, Miranda, is this. First of all, let me tell you this. She is light-skinned. Oh, but prior to that, I was a chocolate man.
Okay.
Okay, I just being honest. Not only that, by the time I met her, she's about 97, 98 pounds, maybe 101 pounds, maybe. Okay. That ain't my speed. I'm a Bahamian. We like meat. Come on, somebody. I'm just being honest.
Okay, go ahead.
Now, she's a beautiful young lady.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as my speed, that ain't my speed.
Mm-hmm.
Because, first of all, she's too small.
Okay.
Okay. And so, but that didn't change the leap.
Right.
So I left there saying to my roommate, I said, big man, I think I just found my wife. I said, matter of fact, that young lady gonna be, because it's the first time in my life that ever happened to me.
How long had you been to the school at this point?
2 years, 2 months.
In 2 months.
In 2 months. And
was that the first time that you had ever seen her, or you had seen her before?
That's my knowledge. You know, you passing people you don't know. Mm-hmm. And so now this happened in the spot. I felt my baby leap, and I said to my roommate, that's gonna be my wife. That same day, I was passing the dorms. When I leave the male dorms, in order to go where I was going, I was passing the female dorm. When I passed in the female dorm, who's coming out the door? She is.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what she said to me. I'll never forget it. I heard you like to cook. Maybe one of these days you can cook for me. Oh, baby, it'll be my pleasure. You just don't know. You just don't know now. It'll be my pleasure. So
okay.
That was our first, other than the little Bible discussion we had, that was our first off-the-record conversation. Okay, we'll see how things work. And
so how did you, don't go. So how did you, once you already declared that this young lady was going to be your wife, how did you go about courting her?
Indirectly. I was never direct with her.
What do you mean indirect? What's an indirect courtship?
You give me a minute, I can tell you.
What is that? Yeah, because I wasn't worried. I just want to know what.
You give me a minute, I will tell you. So let me tell you what happened. In March, we came home. We came back to the Bahamas for spring break. We brought a few guests with us. We came for a week for spring break. While I was on spring break, you know, when you go in the bazaar, if you remember, the guy used to be in the little booth, putting all them pretty crystals together and soldering all.
Sydney.
I went down to see him, and I said, listen, man, I got one gal back in the States. Her name is Tiffany. I want you to make me a crystal with her name on it. He put it together. I bought it, wrapped it up. And then I went to, when I was leaving, it was the airport. I bought them little blue and white license plate with her name on it, bed in the Bahamas. So what I did was, when I came back, when she was in class, I had them wrapped up. I dropped it off on her desk. And said, listen, man, I went home for spring break and I was thinking about you. So I just bought these for you. I rest them there, walk off. Didn't even give a chance to respond. I just walked off.
Mm-hmm.
So later on, she told me she wanted, who is this guy? What's going on with him? Because when I know once he put the crystal together, it's going to be nice and pretty. So it's all good. So now what that did was, that kind of opened the door, but I still was not direct. I didn't come out and say, hey, look, this is how I feel or nothing like that. Because again, just like anybody else, you don't want to be rejected. Nobody wants to be rejected. So you ain't coming on too strong because you don't want to miss the moment, or you don't want her to say, hey, no, I ain't into that. So we can't even talk no more. So there ain't no open door to do nothing. So what happened was, as we continued to go in school, because we were students, international students.
Hold on. What do you mean as you continue to go? When did you make it official, or when did you say, how long did it take you from you giving her the gifts to say, listen, formally, that is, I'm interested in you, whatever. How long did that take?
Maybe a month later, a month and a half later.
Okay.
That's how I was getting ready to go right now. What happened was,
see, I have to guide you because we got a long way to go to really get to the meat. So yeah.
Okay. Let me run through this quickly. And as we continue to go through class, and what they do in school is they post your grades as classes, because they post your grades on the wall. And trust me, there's certain courses and certain Bible knowledge, because I was raised in church. It wasn't no problem for me. Bible school was almost a breeze for me. I'm going to be honest with you, because there was a lot of things I knew biblically. I had learned it in school or learned at home. And so she said to me one time, she said, oh, y'all seem to be very smart. Why we don't just plan some study dates? Her and one of her friends. I said, no problem, man. Y'all come by us. We ain't driving. Y'all driving. So y'all can come by us. Maybe I'll have an opportunity to cook for you, and we will study together. Oh, that opened the floodgates. So They came that evening. They came to our apartment, her and a friend, and me and my boy up. This time I got on my wife beater, so what we call singlet in the Bahamas. I go and get my apron because I was a chef. I got my muscle shirt on, my wife beaters. And guess what I cooked? My first meal I cooked for them. They said they don't eat fish. The first meal I cooked for them was barracuda.
Oh, my.
I cooked some Bahamian barracuda for them with some steamed barracuda and some rice and coleslaw. By the time they was done, they asked for seconds. When they asked for seconds, I took my boy in the back of the kitchen, gave him high five. I said, boy, we got him now.
So the way to their heart was through their stomach. That was the reverse.
And so
here,
a week later, she called me and said she wanted to talk with me. And she came by the apartment. I went downstairs to meet her. We sat in the car for about 4 hours. And then she asked me, I didn't come out and tell her. She asked me if I was interested in her. This is how all of this started. She asked me if I was interested for her. So this whole 4-hour conversation, I say, this is what it is. And boom, boom, boom. I told her, yeah.
Ask you, you didn't just say it?
No, I didn't just say it. I didn't just say it. No, I didn't just say it. I'm just being honest. Men, sometimes men play games. So I played the game. I was playing the game to see how far I was going to get with this game.
Okay.
And the game actually ended up winning for me. Because once she opened that door, that 4-hour conversation, bingo. That's when it all started. Here's what she said to me after we had that 4-hour conversation. She said, I got to go home and check something. Or get some stuff figured out. And then I'll be back and let you know what we're going to do. Watch as I said. This is my exact words. I said, listen, you go home and fix your business. And when you come back, I'm going to be right here waiting on you. Because I know what God done tell me.
So this is still the first semester of Bible school.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm just completely amazed by this. This is the first semester. So throughout your tenure in Bible school, you two were dating.
Yes, we dated all through. Matter of fact, she graduated before me, and she didn't even left to go home. She stayed in Ohio because of me. And so what I did was, after 1 year of dating, I gave her a ring in the second year. So we dated for 1 year. We were engaged for 1 year. And then that's when we decided to get married.
So did you married while you were in Bible school or after you graduated?
I graduated in December. But my graduation wasn't until May.
Okay.
But I got married in February.
Okay.
If that makes sense. You figured out? Yes, I got married. So here's what happened. I got married in February. I graduated in May. We got ordained to a church in June.
Okay. So, pause right there. You accepted a pastorate after only being married for, what's that, 3 months?
3 months.
Okay. You don't even really know this woman yet. I mean, because you're just married. You know her because you're dating, but you don't know her as a wife yet.
Hmm.
And you take on this major responsibility. This where the story can get good. You take on this major responsibility as a young pastor with a young wife. How difficult was that?
Well, there were several. It wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, and here's
Okay.
why. The 2 years that we dated, we spent a lot of time together. The only thing we didn't do was live together.
Mm-hmm.
I saw her every day. So our courtship, that 2 year courtship was very vital for us. It was in that courtship time where I discussed, I wasn't working, I had no money. So all I had to sell was a dream. I had to sell was a vision. This is the plan of God for my life. This is where I believe you fit. This is going to be our next move. And so we were anticipating after graduation to walk into a pastorate. We just didn't know where and when. And this door opened up as soon as I graduated. And what happened is, what made this so easy than I anticipated, our ministry almost became a team. Even though I was the pastor, my wife worked right alongside me.
Mm-hmm.
She worked alongside me. And what happened to is, it was easier than I anticipated, because when you have people in your church who understands the importance of you paying attention to your wife, who understands the importance of the date nights, and who understand the importance of leave the pastor alone, let him spend some time with his family. See, our church was very peculiar because we still had an older, younger congregation. So I had anywhere from 96 to a 2 year old.
Wow.
So the mothers of the church, they stayed on me. When last did you take your wife to dinner? When last did you do this? When last did you do that? And so that's where it became much easier to manage my wife and the church.
Mm-hmm.
And also, too, even though I walked into the pastorate, I was called to be a pastor, but I was more focused. My number one focus, to be honest with you, even though I was called to pastoring, my number one focus was being a great husband. I wanted to be a great husband more than I wanted to be a great pastor.
Okay. Okay. What was the greatest challenges in those early years that you found as a pastor? What were the greatest challenges?
Now, you talking about from a pastoral standpoint or just being a, well,
I'm talking about the pastorate. We can get to the marriage because I still, unless you really like had an exceptional experience, I know there must have been challenges. And one thing I know I understand is church folk.
Mhm,
And so while you have this generational church with all
mhm.
these different levels of people, I want to know what were some of the greatest challenges of pastoring such a multi-generational church.
Well, number one, culture. I'm a Bahamian. I'm
Mhm.
pastoring an American church. Also, we walk into what we'll call a traditional Baptist church, not just a regular Baptist church, a traditional Baptist church.
So what
Where
does
I
that
was
mean, traditional Baptist? What
old
do you
school, you go way back. You go, yeah, you go hymn book back. You go back to the hymn books.
okay?
Yeah, you go. Yeah, this ain't no praise and worship movement. This
Mhm.
devotional movement. This ain't, yeah. So but this is where we are. We become all things to all men that we win some. And so it first of all, it was cultural. And so I had to spend a lot of time understanding the way they operate, the way they function. A lot of the ministries back in the Bahamas are independent in the fact that most of the decisions come from the lead, the pastor, whoever the leader is. When you walk into a already established environment, it's almost like a different culture. So now I have to deal with who I am as a person, being a Bahamian,
Mhm.
because it had its plus and its minuses as far as the way I speak, my accent. People fell in love with that. But then also I began to find out what things men in my culture didn't mean. And this, there were certain words I couldn't use while I was
Right.
preaching that I could use in the Bahamas. So, that was
Mhm.
the hardest part of that. The hardest part of that. And then once I get kind of used to that, the biggest challenge I've had as a young pastor was having to keep a foot as a young guy, having to keep one of my foot in each generation of my church, senior, mid-level, children. And that was the toughest part, because now I got to balance music, I got to balance the way the service flow. That was the hardest part of the ministry for me, and still is. I still challenged by some of that.
And so the church is being run by a board. So whatever decisions you make, the board has to approve.
But the pastor has the final authority, but I do run it through the board.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
they execute from whatever I say, but there's a lot of politicking when you deal with them type of stuff. There's a lot of back and you really understand how people think and how people flow, and then who is who.
Did you have those some or are you still pastoring the same church now?
Yes.
Okay. So you got some leverage to implement some new things or
Absolutely. We did some stuff. One of the things that I did was like I hear people say this a lot. When you walk into a new environment, there's always somebody in your congregation who has more influence than you. It is what it is. You might be the pastor, but in our terminology, we call it the pew pastor. There's always somebody sitting down in that pew who has more influence than you on the people.
Yes.
So for right now, I'm walking in the door. I'm really not their pastor. I'm their preacher. I ain't the pastor yet. They still love the former guy because he was there for 44 years. So I'm more the preacher than I am the pastor. So
what was that like? What was that like?
You know,
walking into that type of culture. I mean, because you understand what you were walking into somewhat in terms of, coming after a long time pastor.
It's
being alone, you're foreign, you're young. So let me rephrase that. How soon, in your estimation, do you believe they started to warm up to who you were?
Oh, in about 6 months.
Okay.
6 months to a year. Because again, remember, I'm a Bahamian. Bahamians love people. Most of us, we do. So we know how to get. See, I was taught this from my forefathers. You get them to love you with their hearts, then they'll follow you with their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And so
then you found who the pew pastor was.
Oh, that was easy. I married matter of fact, that was the first thing I did. That was my first agenda, to marry the pew pastor.
Okay.
So that's what I did. Because if I was going to be successful, I need to marry this person. And so before I did anything in the local church, before I said anything, what I would do is I'll have a one-on-one meeting with the pew pastor. And what I would do is I'll sell them the vision. I will sell them the vision and ask them what is the best way to execute that. And boom, boom, boom. After we done strategized, he left the meeting thinking it was his idea.
Right.
I'm a Bahamian, man.
So that's what worked. That's what worked.
So what happens, see, one of the things as a pastor, one thing I've learned quick, you can be the CEO, but you don't have to be the COO. All you need to do is get the job done.
Right.
So I'm not a dictator. I don't mind working through people to get the job done. To me, the ministry functions better like that. And so once I connected with the pew pastor, things really executed quicker than I anticipated. Because what I did was, I will be honest with you, I learned from the experience of a lot of the people who went before me. Some of the challenges they had and they shared with me, I tried to avoid those challenges. I picked my fights, what was necessary and what was not necessary. I wasn't going in trying to change the color on the carpet.
Right.
Because right now that ain't necessary. I didn't go and try to change the paint on the wall because right now that's not necessary. I need you to love me as an individual so you can see my heart. And then we can expand from here. And once that started to happen, of course, the mothers can always fall in love with you. Once the mothers fall in love with you, because, I got these big cheeks here, all the mothers wanted to do was kiss me every Sunday. And sure enough, I bowed down and let them kiss me. And once mama started saying, y'all don't mess with my boy, I knew I was in there. I was in there. Because once mama get up and talk for you, that's it.
Okay, so let me just get to some comments now. I'll put on my glasses because so many stuff has been rolling up. Okay, you know what? These are your friends. Like, okay, Lord have mercy. Let me go to some serious comments if I could find any.
I love them, and they know that.
They do. Okay. So Linda Lundy says Edwin Beckles was showing off his player skills. Warren said the setup. I think they were referring to the food. The food. Lyndon said that was a big leap of faith with the Barracuda.
Yeah. But we know it wasn't poison. We tried it. We tested it.
Say Bax was looking for a wife with a singlet and an apron. Like, okay. Linda says that was a boss move. Okay. So Kenneth Farrington says, I know exactly what you're talking about. I am an assistant pastor in the US and I'm a born Bahamian. So
Yeah.
obviously you can relate
Mhm.
to some of the things that you were referring to. I want to get more. Okay, let's see what else is here. Yeah, I know that. Linda says you won't find any serious comments with this crew. I know that for
And
sure.
then now I had some more challenging moments when we had
Yeah, because see, I don't want to paint the picture with like you just was
no,
like having sucking a lollipop and skipping down the
no,
street and everything was so easy. And that's why I've asked
my
you what were some of your greatest challenges in not just pastoring because you were Bahamian, that's another thing. I'm talking about just in general, because while there may be cultural differences, the reality is people are people
okay, I won't get there.
wherever you go.
My first come to Jesus moment was our first business meeting that I had to chair. I was responsible for. All
Mhm,
right. Now I'm in a congregational church where a lot of stuff is run by the members and they vote on it.
mhm,
That's the system. Okay. So now I didn't talk to the pew pastor. He didn't instruct me on how it go. I read the church constitution. I want to understand my role and how it goes. So now I'm going into the business meeting. The first one I'm responsible for. This is the meeting. I mean, the meeting is crowded. This is the second meeting I was a part of, but the first one I didn't chair. I allowed my assistant to do it so I could see how they function.
mhm.
And I just closed that meeting out. Now, this one, I'm the man. This is it. I got to put my pedal to the metal, cast vision, take charge, and sure, I may be young, but this is what I'm called to do.
Mhm.
Listen, man, listen. I walk up to the podium, I done prayed and fast, Lord, lead me in this, and everything you could name, they done tell you about to do, fast, pray, tarry, whatever they done tell you. I walk up to the board and say, good evening, everybody, and whatever. I'm going to now make some appointments and direct some people to be responsible in certain areas of the church who then report to me. So I don't have my arms stretched all over the place where I can't reach. Because again, I'm a young pastor. I got a young marriage. I need to make sure I have all hands on deck. So I wanted to do some order and do some structuring. That was my goal. Here's what happened. The first appointment I made, I said, now listen, I'm going to have a minister of church Christian education. He's going to be responsible for Sunday school, responsible for boom, 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 boom. Okay.
Mhm.
When I called the individual's name, somebody got up in the meeting and said these exact words. Who died and left you, boss? Who
Okay.
died and left you, boss? Listen to me. Listen to me. All the air came in the room. All of the air, because this is my first come to Jesus moment. This is my first, okay, the honeymoon over now.
Mhm.
This new pastor talk over now. This is my first. He said who, and he's older. He's much older than I am. He's a deacon at that too. And when he said that, my heart jumped from here all the way down here. And
Mhm.
that was the quickest moment I had to grow some. I had to
Mhm.
grow some quick. And at that
Mhm.
moment, I'm saying to myself, Lord, what to do next? I don't know what to do. The whole church is quiet. The attention is on me. He then got up and shouted. And I said, you know what? The Bible, I'm a Bahamian. We're going to kill him with kindness. And I just took a deep breath. I bounced right back at him. I didn't let it linger too long. I said,
Mhm.
excuse me, sir. I don't know how long you've been a part of this church, but based on the constitution that I met in place, it is my responsibility to direct this church in all spiritual matters. I didn't make the rules. I'm following the rules. God
Mhm.
bless you. And let's move forward. That
Mhm.
was a turning moment where, and see, I had to really grow some because, first of all, he was older. You know, coming from our culture too, we don't disrespect people who can be our father. That's just who we are.
Sure.
And
Mhm.
but in that moment, everybody kind of looked, okay, he can handle it. That's when everybody in the church now, they didn't see me as their young little son, because most of the people a lot of people I was pastoring had kids older than me.
Mhm.
So I was no longer the little boy in the church. I was no longer the little island boy in the church. That night I became the pastor
Okay.
because I started structuring and moving stuff. Whether you like it or not, this is what it's gonna be.
Mhm.
And if you have any problem, come see me in the office.
So did
That
you have
moment there,
for
mhm,
that business meeting that night, was there any more resistance or that set the tone for the direction that the meeting continued in?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then also too, I was still learning some stuff. I was young in it. I was learning the way they do business, the way they structure their auxiliary voting and all that stuff. I wasn't accustomed to that because I was accustomed to churches where pastors make appointment. We're gonna
Mhm.
appoint so and so. We're gonna do this, 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 this. Nah, this is a different baby. This is a totally different baby, and you got to maneuver this right, or you could have a crash landing because
Okay.
there's so much families connected across the board. You got to know who's who. And so you play the people game until you figure it out. But the appointments I made was necessary. Uh, and the majority of the church was in agreement with the appointments I made. So that was no problem. It was just trying to get one or two disorderly people who was trying to, and then after the meeting, the guy who stood up and said what he said, he gonna come to me. Oh, brother pastor, I wasn't being disrespectful. I just wanted to keep you on your toes. I said, boy, if you don't get that.
Did you have you since pastoring, because it's been what, 10 years now since
Oh
you've
yeah.
been pastoring?
Mhm.
Okay. So have you made any appointments that you've regretted?
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Mhm.
Matter of
And
fact,
how did you handle that?
uh, I'm gonna be honest with you.
I like
Because of
honesty. We like
yes,
honesty
because
here.
of the when you walk into churches, man, anything a pastor say can tear up a church. It can either heal or tear it up. So you got to move in strategic strategies. There were some appointments I made. I regretted it, and I wanted to pull the individual. I could have done it abruptly and say, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do. You're going to move from here, and I'm going to do X, Y, Z." But Miranda, I'm going to be honest with you. I had to go pray about it
Mhm.
because it was killing the department I appointed them over. Because I had people didn't show up because of that appointment and all this other stuff. And let me tell you what I did. I said, God, I don't know how to handle this, but you have to help me fix this. This is a long-standing member of the church. Got family ties in the church, and boom, boom, boom. Let me tell you what happened. And see, this is why I just waited out. Just give it a little time and waited. I prayed intensively about this every day. Let me tell you what happened. I got a phone call. Got a phone call from the individual. Individual said to me, Pastor, I just wanted to let you know I won't be able to do such and such right now because something has came up and won't allow me to do this. And so
Mhm.
I'm on the phone with them. I said, man, really? I mean, you can't do this. And I'm just saying, man, I don't know what it is, but I'm praying you and your family, okay. Being the pastor. I'm talking my pastor talk. Man, as soon as I hang that phone up, I said, thank you, Jesus. I said,
So
thank
God
you,
made a way
Jesus.
of escape for you. He
Wait,
made a
listen,
way
get
of
out of here.
escape.
Matter of fact, don't you come back no more. I said, thank
So
you.
working in a structure like that,
Mhm.
how challenging, I'm not going to say difficult, how challenging it to be pastoring the type of ministry that is board driven, directed.
It's it's very different. It has its major challenges. Major challenges. Here's why. A lot of the people who try to challenge your movements are people you ordain. You have the power to ordain them. So you ordain them to the ministry, and then after a while they will challenge your plans. So it
Mhm.
has its challenges as well as it has its pluses if you have the right people around you. Because you don't mind it, because here's one of the things I established in our church. You can't challenge the pastor's vision. That's a no-no. But there's no ground for that. But you could challenge the process.
Mhm.
The Bible tells us there is safety in the multitude of counsel. I have some folks on my board who are brilliant people who've been around the church longer than I have and understand the makeup of some people and have influence on some people. And so now I may come to the meeting. Here's what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. But then they might have a different way. We get the same results, but it's just going in another direction.
Yes.
But
Mhm.
the frustrating part about it is when you sometimes sit on the board with men who are in a different generational gap, but they are not progressive thinkers. They are
Mhm.
still stuck on the way we used to do it. This is how we've always done it. And they're,
Mhm.
they're, they're slow to move with changes. And so there are times where you have to just be a pastor, do what you have to do, and let the chips fall where they may.
How have you been able to bridge that generational gap because it seems so vast?
Yes, but what I do, but the biggest thing is always the music.
Okay.
And so what I've done is, even after we implemented the praise team and all that good stuff, I just trying to keep up with the younger generation. I look at my minister of music and listen, I don't care what you do. Every Sunday I need a hymn. I need 2 hymns every Sunday. Because I need to make sure I'm ministering to mama. And here's why. And can I just be frank? Here's why, man. The first Sunday of the month is still my biggest offering.
Mm-hmm.
You know why? Mama just got her Social Security.
Okay.
The seniors are still the biggest givers in the church. And
Mm-hmm.
so I still need to minister to them because they're carrying this church. So I told my minister of music, listen, every Sunday, I need 2 hymns, at least 2. So mama could feel like this is still her church. Even though her grandson is getting saved, even though her children are coming and say, oh, mama, I like your pastor. But I still need to minister to mama. And it don't take much to minister to mama. You sing 1 or 2 good songs for mama. And then when I'm preaching every now and then, I look over in the corner where mama is and say, mama, the Lord brought you from a mighty long way. And after a while, mama done kick and shout twice. I'm good. Because she realized, Rev, understand me. You know what I mean?
All right. Let me get to some more comments. Okay. Tiffany Beckles, I take it this is your sister.
That's my wife.
Your wife, Tiffany? Okay. Hi,
That's
Tiffany. It is essential to rely on the Holy Spirit to navigate through tough situations. That's what she says. And then Cherika Wiley agrees with her. Then she says, your wife says, if you don't, this is good when your wife is actually watching and tuning in and not rebutting what you're saying. So this is a good thing. If you don't rely on the Holy Spirit, you're subject to fail.
Mm-hmm.
And Lavette McFall says, sometimes you have to let good work. I think she means God work it out.
Yes.
Lyndon Lundy says, the seeds still needed. Oh, still need those seeds. So one has to use with some wisdom, absolutely.
Yes.
Kenneth Farrington says, very different from the Bahamas. This is the age of enlightenment. Music is very important to the elderly. So true seniors are, so true. Seniors are the givers. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Wisdom is the principal thing, as the scripture tells us.
And here's the key. Here's the key. And this is it. And this is why I tell you, my marriage not being strained. Again, you can see my wife was commenting. My wife is a vital part of our church.
Mm-hmm.
So, a vital part of my life.
Let's go back a little bit, and since she's on the line, so you can talk about her and celebrate her as she's on the line. So again, you married very young at 25, was it?
But at the time I got married, I was 27.
27, and then you go and pastor a church right away. I think that's just phenomenal in itself. So was this a congregation that your wife was already familiar with, or both of you were walking into this brand new?
My wife had an upper hand on me because she was raised traditional Baptist.
Okay.
So she's familiar. And one of the strange dynamics of our relationship is this. This is very important. I think people need to understand this. And once we get into marriage, for the next couple minutes, we'll talk about this. Everything from I've been married, every move that God is shifting me into, every next phase of my life, my wife always has a dream. God speaks to me more clearly through my wife than sometimes directly to me. She just how she dreams it, that's how it manifests. Every time God is about to move, he gives her a dream. Why? I don't know, but that's what he does. And so that became important to me because early on in our marriage, my wife, after we had some little issues, me trying to be alpha male and put my foot down and run with an iron fist, I saw a little frustrating moment. But one day she said these words that changed our whole marriage. She said, let me tell you something. Anytime I come to you with something, I'm not trying to hurt you. We are on the same team. If I'm coming to you, I'm just trying to help you. So I need you to listen to me. You know, of course, being like any husband, after a while, I said, woman, you talking foolishness. But as I went back and lay down and pondered that made so much sense. So that changed our marriage. Where I understood now, this is a team. We are a team. And so
it changed you. It changed you. She already knew it, so it actually liberated you and
Yes,
changed your thought process in terms of marriage and the alpha male type situation is I want to say typical of a lot of men, especially Bahamian men,
yeah.
thinking that they're supposed to lead and be that alpha male. So that's totally understandable at that time. And what I want to commend you on is the fact that you listened to her when
Well,
she said that to you. You were able to embrace that and to run with it. And so she's been playing a pivotal role in helping
oh,
you to lead this multi-generational church.
yeah,
Yeah.
because she's the one who dreamed. Let
Mhm.
me tell you what happened. Before we got to this church, I've had a dream about this church. She got it. She woke me up. It could be like 2, 3 o'clock one morning. Say, honey, I just had a dream. The Lord is going to send us to a Baptist church. And I kid you not, that night I sat up in the bed and say, woman, you got to be crazy. You need to go back to sleep.
So what were you thinking prior to that dream? You thought you were going to start a work
Yeah,
or
yeah. Either
okay.
that or come and work with a pastor home, and eventually either they do something or turn it over to us. That was my thought process. I didn't know.
Mhm.
However, as she dreamed it, exactly 1 year later, this is what God did.
You got the opportunity.
And because she was raised in a traditional Baptist church, I lean a lot on her. And also, too, her influence is vital because the members loved her almost more than they love me.
That's not bad.
Hey, listen, hold on. Because we are a team, it didn't bother me. I used that to our advantage.
Mm-hmm.
That was success for us. You know what I mean? Because a lot of churches you go in, members don't care for the first lady.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
Right.
not only was she was the first lady, she was also a minister of the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
So they used to ask me, when you gonna let First Lady preach again? When is she coming? Man, be my guest. Because you don't know me, a lot of traditional churches, they didn't believe too much in women preaching.
Okay.
So this was big that they wanted to hear her. And listen, I kicked the gate wide open.
Mm-hmm.
I
So
kicked
she's an integral part of the preaching and teaching in the ministry.
Oh yes. I listen, I lean a lot on her. When I can't go, she go.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in terms of let's talk now about the marriage, because you marry and you start this new ministry and the challenges of growing a ministry, and then later on, what, a year or two later, you actually begin to have children.
2 years later.
2 years later, you have children. You have your first child. How did her giving birth change the ministry to that point? How did it change for you in pastoring?
It changed me as an individual. Because now, here's the thing. Now, it's no longer just she and I. We are responsible for somebody else. And what happened to me was, I will be honest with you, even when I was called to pastor, I love pastoring. My greatest focus then became to be a great husband and father. That was my number one focus. I refused to. The ministry got to the place where I leaned a lot on leaders. Because one thing I didn't want my wife raising the kids by herself.
So what do you mean leaned a lot on leaders? Meaning instead of you doing every Bible study and prayer meeting or whatever, you would have
I put people in
delegated
place.
more.
I put people in place. Let's make this happen. Let's do this. Because I still wanted time to be a father and a husband. I wanted that. And so I leaned a lot on people in the church to get it done. Because what I realized, every time the church door opened, the pastor don't have to be there.
Mm-hmm.
And then listening to my forefathers. And I'm big on listening to the elders of the ministry. I'm huge on that because I don't know it all. We take vacations. Oh, I don't care what's going on. We're going to take some vacations. We're going to leave. And no, we ain't coming back in time to be here for Sunday. No, our vacation going to carry us into Sunday. We ain't coming here. Mm-hmm. No, the church going to be okay if I'm not here.
So let me ask you this. How long did it take you to figure it out you didn't have to be there all the time every Sunday, or did you go in knowing that, or that was an eventuality?
No, I didn't go in knowing that, because being a young pastor, you become the face of the ministry. You want to make sure everything going right. I always felt like anytime there was a problem, I had to jump in and fix it right away. And I realized this thing gonna kill me.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take? How many years?
It didn't take no years.
Oh, okay.
It took months. Again,
Okay.
because I had leaders in my church. I had some senior people in my church who really cared for us. They literally saw us as their children,
Mm-hmm.
who would pull us aside, make sure y'all get some rest. Rev, you don't have to be here. We're gonna take care of everything. And you just make the only thing you wanted to make sure these were people we could trust. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so be it. We won their hearts, and they would make sure they go take your wife somewhere. I'm gonna handle the meeting. Every time the board meet, he was like, Rev, you don't have to be here. We're not discussing nothing major. You could stay home with the family. I will call you after the meeting and give you an update on the minutes. So all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff I cut up. When I first started pastoring, I used to be there every meeting, every board meeting, every business meeting. And so once the church gets to a place where they understood who we were and what I felt like and what I did, a lot of stuff I didn't have to go to.
Mm-hmm. Which is great.
Because, yeah, the deacons say, Pastor, we got this. You can stay home, and I'll call you when the meeting over, and I'll give you an update. The only time I show up when we get ready to make some major moves and changes.
So you,
I
so
spend a lot of time with my family, a lot of it.
Great. So you have your first child, and you focus on becoming the best dad that you can,
Mm-hmm.
and you're changing as a person because now you're looking at you're responsible for another being other than your wife, and then you have another child. How soon after that one?
2 years.
2 years. Okay. So your family is growing. What's changing about the ministry as your family grows, and what changes have you seen in the ministry since you became the pastor, like where it was and where it is?
Well, while my family is growing, uh, the thing that changes is now my intentions of showing the church how much I love my family. Because what I found out too was there were a lot of young men in the church who had their eyes on me, who watched the way I treated my wife, who watched the way I treated my children. So I became a model indirectly to a lot of people.
Mhm.
A lot of folk, you people tell us later, they came to our church because of not because I preached, but because of the way I took care of my family. They'll tell us that. Guys will say, man, I just came here because I just love the way the pastor treated his family. And so you watch that transition. Then when you become when you are the pastor and you start having children, what happens is your children becomes the church children,
Mhm.
because everybody's now fighting. Oh, let's go help the first lady. You take that one, I take that one, you take the bag. And again, we have church with mothers in it. That's what mothers do. So while the first lady in church, somebody's coming to get the baby. So our church was great in assisting with that, because we had a cross-generational church.
Mhm.
During this time, the church is growing quicker than we anticipated. And the reason for that was the former pastor had been there 44 years. I was a young pastor. And what happened is because I was youthful, the church ended up with an influx of youth because they now start to identify with somebody in the pulpit who looks like them.
Mhm.
This is when the church started growing, this is when a lot of challenges came my way. A lot. You would think growth in a church will give people success, people be excited about it. There was so much old guard who struggled with giving room to the new guard. And what they would do behind the scenes that we didn't know about, a lot of the new people got crushed.
Mhm.
Because people want to know who you are, what you're here for, why you coming. And so a lot of time, because you couldn't keep your hand on everything as the church grow, we'll meet people in the streets and, man, look at y'all are great people, man. But them folk in the church, I couldn't deal with it.
Mhm.
So then now we have to figure out, okay, honey, I need you to be praying. How are we gonna balance this? Because as the church, we need the church to grow, but there's a lot of the old guard who we met there who got their foot on the neck of the church,
Did you
basically
ever
suffocating.
address it?
Huh?
Did you ever address that?
I
Or
had to
not?
do it. I had to do it strategically.
Sure. Mhm.
Yeah, everything is a strategy and using wisdom. A lot again, praying about it, counseling about it. And so what we did was one of the things that we ended up coming up with was all the leaders in our church. We made it mandatory for them to have somebody in another generation working right under them.
Mhm.
Working right under them.
That's
Teach
succession
somebody.
planning.
Absolutely. Teach somebody, because you ain't going to be here forever. You're not going to be here forever. And not because you're not here, the church should crumble.
Yes.
You understand what I mean? And so that started to work for a while. That started to work until people understand, because the mindset of the guard was, oh, Rev trying to kick us out of the way and turn the church into full youthful church. Then we don't have no more say or power in our own church. So it became that generational power struggle. And as a pastor, you still want to be able to function with everybody in the church, because they all make up the church.
Yeah.
They all do. And again, like I told you, that's still a struggle for us. I'm not going to tell you it's not. We do have faithful people. We have giving people. But that power struggle from generation to generation, even in as simple as putting people together to plan the pastor anniversary, to plan whatever, the church anniversary, there's always a generation, because one generation want to do it this way, the other generation want to do it this way, but this is the way we did it last year. And all the struggle, you have to get in and you feel like, oh, come on, guys, we're too old for this now. So I just made it mandatory. Anytime we have special services, I need somebody from every generational gap to be a part of the planning. And that helps solve the problem. And so, again, it's just about a wisdom, praying it through. Don't making too much haste moves that can cost you. Everything has to be kind of calculating, and counsel with elders of the church who you can call and say, hey, this is where I'm at. I need help.
So let's talk about your family. We mentioned your girls, so let's talk about them. These girls, your two kids that came into your life. Let's talk about them and them being born into the pastorate. How's that been for them? Are they aware? Well, they're old enough to be aware. Do they have children, kids their age in the ministry? And are they experiencing any pressure as PKs? Because we hear about that all the time.
Well, my wife and I, first of all, to answer your first question, they love it. Because they're part of the experience. One of my daughters said, Daddy, I want you to be the pastor of this church forever. I said, well, you got to talk to the Lord about that. Because they are catered.
Why did she say that? Why?
Because people cater to the pastor's children.
Oh, okay.
People always, you know that. That's cross-cultural.
Sure.
People cater to the pastor's children. They want something to eat, somebody go get it. They want whatever. People cater to them. Most Sundays we come to church, somebody's bringing a gift for them. There's a gift in the office for the children, and they just love that part of it. But also, we've used this ministry for them as a growing tool for them, pulling leadership out of them, making them to be a part of the church and doing things in the church. The same way I was raised and my wife was raised, we are trying to raise our children. Now it's to the point where things have changed as far as ministry and the pandemic. My daughters, most of the things you see us do on social media, all our virtual service, they are the producers. They do all the behind the scene producing and editing, because to be honest with you, they know more of this stuff than me and my wife. So they know all of how to do this. I don't know how they figure it out, but they know. And so they're growing up now. As far as the pressure of being pastor's kid, what we do, because we've been raised in the church and we know all the do's and don'ts. But we give our children room to be them.
Right.
My daughters are Americans, but they bona fide Bahamians. They love to shake.
What do you mean?
They love to shake what their mama gave them.
Oh, okay.
So they love to dance. That's all they do. They TikTok all day. And so I'd stand up sometime and look at my wife and say, look at your daughter shaking. They can shake better than mama them back in the day. They don't stop shaking. Every time I see them, they're in the video TikToking, they shaking. I said, boy, y'all ain't bad. Y'all are real Bahamians. Y'all are real Bahamians. But we allow them to be regular kids. And we don't confine them to, nothing. We tell them about the gospel ministry. We tell them about Jesus Christ, how to honor the Lord, honor the word. But we still want y'all to we don't want y'all to be naive to what's out there in the world. We don't want y'all they know more music than we know. But we still, they got their cell phones and all that stuff that they free to work with. It's just that at nighttime, we put them in our rooms. At 9 o'clock, y'all go to bed, bring them phones. We still give them boundaries, but we still want them to be normal kids. We don't want them to have that pressure of, well, my daddy's a pastor. Just there's a lot of pressure with that.
It sure is. So where do you see in your vision for ministry and in the midst of COVID? I I've said throughout this year, this pandemic, that I am so glad God did not call me to be
Mhm.
a pastor,
Yeah.
because I know that this has been perhaps the most challenging time, to also the most exciting, I might add, if you would take advantage of some things. But I believe it has been one of the most challenging times for a number of reasons. One, because the whole idea, the nature of the pastorate is to be able to touch, to reach out, to connect, to engage with membership. Two, because it takes tithes and offerings to run the business of the ministry, to pay the bills.
Mhm.
And three, because so many people being out of work, being unemployed, being displaced, their lives being disrupted. How have you been managing as a pastor in this time with all of those situations and perhaps more?
But I'm a shepherd. I'm a shepherd. I love sheep.
Mhm.
So as you said, that's who we are. When you have this heart, man, you love sheep, no matter who they are. That's what pastors do. I love people, love to be in the presence of people. As far as the pandemic, one of the first things, of course, anytime we cannot gather, because I'm a social butterfly, I love to do that.
Mhm.
It takes me out of my element because I'm not able to do what I do. That's one. Two, as a pastor, the first thing happened to me was I had to take a pay cut. It is what it is. Some people out of job. If I got to take a pay cut, it is what it is. All right. I'm not going to preach to you, trust God, and I can't trust him. You know what I mean? And so after that, and then, so what we had to do was one of the challenges for us because of the demographics of our church, we had to train our members into social media
Sure.
because we had to still try to engage. But I will say, from the first day, we haven't been to church since March.
Mhm.
We hit the ground running. So as a news buff, I'm a news guy. So I listened, I prepared. I gave my members all the instructions, made sure they downloaded all the apps they needed. Make sure you get your. We did all this before they shut us down. This is how we're going to connect. We got 3 ways we can connect: the conference call, Facebook Live, Zoom. This is how you connect. I spent a Sunday in church just doing this for all the members
Mhm.
so we can prepare. Some of them had no idea what Rev was talking about until it came upon us. So we were able to hit the ground running. One of the hardest things for me as a pastor during this pandemic was having members who were sick, who were affected by COVID, who were sick with other things, but could not get to them,
Mhm.
couldn't get to the hospital. They won't let me in the hospital. Not only that, I had to bury members who died because of COVID. And
Yes.
of course, no matter how long they served the church, we couldn't do a celebration in the church. Everything was done at the graveyard and graveside service, and then you only can have a limited amount of people. So all of this change of how we operate and how we flow and reaching out to people, and people are hurting, you try to be there the most for them. That's what
Mhm.
people look at the glitter and glamour of pastorate, but trust me, that when you get down to the crux of it, is reaching out to people when they are the lowest, just letting them know you're there, you're praying for them, your family's with them, and that means so much. That's been the hardest part of this whole pandemic, not being able to do what we customarily do, be there for people when they need us the most,
Mhm.
and that's been tough. But
So
other
how?
than that, the virtual service, what we've done was we do virtual twice a month.
Mhm.
And then we went to what we call a park and praise, where people pull up on the church lawn with their cars and meet in the open air. We do that twice a month, virtual twice a month, just to kind of mix it up to keep everybody not around each other too much to get this dreadful disease. So that's what we've been doing.
What's if you have any, what would be your greatest fear in terms of getting people back into the actual sanctuary for worship?
Uh, for me, one my greatest challenge,
Mhm.
our greatest challenge, going to be that 40 and under generation. Mom and them coming back to church.
Okay.
My 96 to 65 to maybe even 55. I ain't got to worry about them. They coming to church. Matter of fact, they can't wait to get back to church. It
Mhm.
is that 45 and under crew who done love the virtual. They love going to Bedside Baptist. They love when they can log on to pastor at 10 o'clock, see another pastor at 11, and don't leave their house. They're
Mhm.
comfortable. And the reason why I can tell you this, even in this pandemic, we haven't done so bad with our giving. People love to electronically give.
Okay.
This youthful generation, they don't mind pressing the button to give. They watch you and they comment a couple of times. They have no I've been on them. The problem now, getting them back to what seems to be the virtual movement has taken over ministry. Is that group that I'm concerned about. Because mom and them coming back as soon as the door open. Getting that 45 and under back to the church. Because our church, I'm not going to have no trouble with the kids. We have a major children's ministry. Once the bus show up, they're ready to go. Mom and them coming back. But that 45 and under, we have to rethink ministry. Maybe still do a lot of virtual stuff because now that's where we are. So that's my greatest concern right there. That generational gap right there.
That grouping back. There are some people who are still going to be concerned about being in close quarters with strangers, people that they don't know, that they don't live with. So that is a valid concern that I've heard many express in actuality. What's your vision for the church? Let's move forward into 2021. If this pandemic continues the way it is, what's the vision going forward? I'm not going to talk about if it changed when it stops. Let's talk about going into 2021 under the present conditions. What does Pastor Edwin Beckles say to his congregation?
Well, as of right, I think as far as what we're doing, as far as we can see, our numbers, our reaches, our mass text message operation, our virtual operation, our park and praise operation, those are going to stay in place because for our church, they have been very effective. They have been very effective. Our food ministry never closed. Our food ministry is still rolling every week. That we're going to continue doing that. My wife and I, we're just concerned about how we reach people, how we encourage people. So we do a lot of that through text messaging and virtual stuff. Now, the biggest thing I need to do that is very important is my next major thing I want to do is create some YouTube channel for our children and youth ministries. We have ministered to our adults, but we fell down when it comes to our children. Because I look at my daughter who's 3 years old. Every day she gets home, she wants my phone. My daughter know how to get to YouTube on her own. She know how to search for whoever she needs. She be on that for 4 hours. Why? I need to have something where she can find the church channel and kids program come on where they can be ministered to. That's our greatest need right now. And that's something I'm going to jump on ASAP. So children, as a part of our church, can log on at any time and have some type of spiritual food that they can plug into because we don't know when this is going to end. So we're going to strengthen our virtual network. We're going to strengthen our mass texting network. And now we're going to continue to do our best to control what we can while staying connected to our people. Because every now and then I'll spend a day just making phone calls. I'll spend a day making phone calls. Hey, listen, I thought about you. How you and your family doing? We praying for you. We love you. And stuff like that. It takes 2 minutes, but it means a lot to a family. That pastor will pick up the phone and call them. So this type of stuff, I don't let my staff do. Me or my wife does this. I take my time to do this type of stuff now that we are in a pandemic because I think it's important to let people know that your church is still here for you. Even though we're not gathering, we still need to be effective in ways to touch you and reach you. And hearing our voice is one of those ways that I think is very effective.
As a pastor, what are you saying to those people who may be unemployed and not know when they're going to be employed again or are just dealing with loss, I mean, and successive loss? What are you saying to those persons?
A lot of our messages we've been preaching has been encouraging messages. I really talk a lot about when they was getting ready to cross over Jordan in the Bible. He said, we haven't been this way before. None of us on all sectors, we have not been this way before. And so the only thing we can do is trust God. But as a church, one of the things that I strive on, because I believe this, as a church, we don't only just want to preach faith and encourage. We want to do something tangible
Yes.
to show you that we care. Not just preach to you. We do things that are tangible. Sometimes in our food drive, I'll take my car, fill it up with boxes of food. I will hand deliver them to the people. I'll have my list, their address. I will stop by, ring the doorbell, rest the box at the door, and say, listen, we gone. I don't need to hug you or nothing. We social distancing. So there's just ways to let people know you're here for them. Anywhere we can help subsidize and do what we can, because one of the things that have been a blessing to our church, again, I only speak for our church, with our senior congregation, they still got a steady income. They still have income, so our finances are still flowing. It's not where it used to be, but it's not in the tank. Okay, and so we are still able to help and assist wherever we can, because this is the time where the church needs to be the church. Those who can, everybody can't, but actions speak louder than words in these kind of times. And so this is where we are doing our best, just not only to talk it, but to be the hand and feet of Jesus any which way we can. Because I can't hug you. I can barely shake your hand. So here's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna find other ways to have action to show you that we are here for you. We're praying for you. We're going to encourage you the best way we can. But stay strong. Don't give up. Don't quit. This too shall pass. And that's been our message.
Do you see yourself pastoring until you die, or do you see yourself retiring?
No, I ain't gonna do that. That's them old folks. They did that. I ain't doing that.
What do you mean? What are you not doing?
I ain't pastoring until I die.
Okay, so what if you're not going to pastor until you die? What's the next phase after pastoring?
Allow me to grow. Once the Lord allowed me to grow older, here's the thing. My wife and I think we'll always do ministry. When I get about, just to be told, as of right now, feeling how I feel right now, knowing what I know right now, when I get about if the Lord allow me to be strong even in my 70s, if I'm pastoring, I'm just preaching. But as far as the day-to-day operation, now somebody younger gonna do that. Y'all ain't gonna kill me. No, not by the grace of God. I want to take a break. What I want to do is I want to bring my grandchildren to Sunday school. We sit on the front row of the church and let Junior them run the church. I don't mind giving wisdom and counsel and still being a part of the ministry. But just to say I'm senior pastor, no, let them other fellas do that. I'm not doing that. Because I didn't see what it done to the older saints. I didn't see what it done to my forefathers. No, you have to know when to let it go.
Right.
You have to know when you done your part. Pass the baton on. See, I'm not going to build a vision and turn around and kill it. No, not by the grace of God. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going, not that I'm leaving ministry. Ministry is a part of my life. That's what, but as far as being the senior pastor, no, man, me and my wife, I already told my girls. We already instructing our girls. We try to get them in the right flow. Don't have no children until you're married, because we ain't taking care of your children. As soon as y'all get out of our house, me and my wife, we downsizing. We downsizing, so y'all wouldn't think y'all coming back here with a bunch of kids and no load. Do things structurally, organize yourself. So because me and my wife, we want to travel a little bit. And so we going to take it. When I finish pastoring, whenever the Lord see fit to say, hey, okay, Junior can take over the church now, and I can take a break and just oversee or whatever. No, man, I want to take that time and me and my wife enjoy life in the world. And if we want to come down in the Bahamas and preach for queers, I can do that. But as far as being the senior pastor, dealing with hard-headed people when I'm 65, no, I'm going to save that for my grandchildren. No, I won't say that. I want to be on the ground with my grandson with a train going around the track. You know what I mean? But as far as being the senior pastor,
sure,
I don't want to do that till I die. I don't.
What do you see as one of your greatest victories, some of your greatest victories in the church, being pastorate? What was like the highlight of the pastorate so far?
One of the greatest highlights of my pastorate was being influential on a lot of young men that were in my age bracket. I had a whole contingent of young brothers that came from all walks of life. If you name it, they did it. Drug dealing, pimping, gangsterism, whatever you call it. And God being able to allow them to come to our church, come as they are. We don't discriminate. Come be real with me. Tell me your real story. Now, what I want to do is Let me influence you. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a real talk. And I've seen some of their lives turned around for the glory of God just by being an example. Just by being an example, paying attention to them, talking with them. Now what I'm trying to do now is get them to grab a hold of their families, get their houses and get their families on a different path. These are great success for me. A lot of time people look at pastors, oh, my pastor's doing this and the members down here. No, I teach my guys who I give me. There's nothing I've accomplished in my life you can do also. But you need to set your life in order and follow certain steps and allow God to lead you. But I want you just as successful or even more successful than I am. That's when I feel like God is glorified the most. And you can look back over your life and you can say, man, I didn't walk from here to there, to there, to there, all to the glory of God. And so this is when I see young men riding around with their families out to dinner, fellas who didn't hang with their families, but all because, man, Pastor, you encouraged me. You taught me how to be a man. You taught me how to be a father. This is the greater part of ministry that people don't talk about. But this is one of the greatest rewards of my pastor.
If you had an opportunity to do for a do-over with a decision that you've made in ministry, what would it be?
I wouldn't say it's so much a decision I should have made. To me, it's more of a decision I should have made that I did not make when I should have made it. And what I mean by that is this: when the church started growing, and we had what many would call momentum, I wanted to restructure the church. And what I did was, again, being a guy who seek counsel, I went to my pew pastor, who thought it was a great idea. He said, "Oh, Pastor, I like it, but wait a minute. Let's wait a while and see." And I felt right there and then, let's move. This is the time to get it done. Because what I wanted to do was I wanted to restructure the church, not so I can be in a better position, but to position the church better. Because, as a leader, what you do is you see where people don't see as a leader.
Sure.
Okay. And me listening to my pew pastor, I did not make that decision when I should have. Now, at this point in our ministry, I'm feeling the brunt of that decision I did not make. And it was simple as I looked at my board and my leaders, and I look at the age group. I look at some of their health was beginning to fail them. I said, Lord, you know what? 3 years from now, if this continue, I'm going to be in trouble. And in the space of at least the last year, I've lost three leaders. So I've watched the board just dwindle down to almost nothing. And what I wanted to do then is I wanted to strengthen the church board. But what would have been unprecedented was I wanted to add more women to the church leadership role, board-wise, than just all men. I wanted to bring some women to the table and allow them to be a part of some of the decision making and some of the ideas that was brought. Because right now we were totally engulfed by men. And one of the challenges I had was I love my men, respect them. They work hard, they gave, but they weren't progressive. They didn't see past their nose. And when you brought ideas to them past their nose, their response frustrated you because they couldn't see it. You understand what I mean? And so that decision that I did not make is costing me now because the leadership board is starting to just dwindle down. And so now I'm going to have to make that decision. But it may be harder now to get clear understanding of it than it was back then.
Sure. It's a challenge. It is definitely a challenge being in the pastorate. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the ministry, about the role your wife plays in ministry, about your family. We talked about you being out of ministry, and so now I want to ask you this. This is what I call the lightning round. This is where we get a little lighter now. Is there something else you wanted to say?
Oh, yeah, something I told you that when my wife told me, and I want to share this. I want people listening to hear this, man. Okay. You heard me made this statement. You can be a CEO, but you don't have to be the COO.
Mhm.
And when I felt that leap in my spirit, when I met my wife at the spot at school, that was God's way of telling me this is it. And our partnership has been the ultimate success of who I am today and where we are today.
Mhm.
And so I want to say to any young man listening to us today, women are designed to help. That's their makeup. That's who they are. Stop and listen for a moment. It don't make you less of a man. It does not. Because at the end of the day, your name is on that family. You are the CEO. That's your name, your stamp of approval on that. Any success that family has gonna be attributed to you.
Mhm.
And she has been one of the greatest assets to my life and our ministry. Not only that, she hears and knows the voice of God. So it helps me. When I miss it, she gonna catch it.
Spoken
And
like a wise man, for sure.
absolutely.
Okay, let me get to some of these comments before I go into the lightning round. Um, okay, this just a question to oh Lord. Okay, Warren wants to know, after pastoring for so long, is there a pension for pastors, or do you get a plaque in the celebration?
Now, the church structure that what you do is, as a pastor, when you get into church like this, you ask for that to be structured. You do that. You ask for that, because if you don't, it's just gonna be a plaque and a celebration.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be able now to manage through the board how to get that structured so you can position yourself when you decide to retire. And
Mm-hmm.
as a pastor, churches need to do that, because you don't want to give your life to pastor it, and then when you leave, you can't take that. And that's why a lot of pastors stay on until death,
Mm-hmm.
trying to take care of their families. And it's okay, man does what he has to do. But if
Sure.
you structure that right early on, by the time you get ready to retire, you'll be all right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Karen Farrington says pastors can pay into their retirement just like anything else.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
so let's lighten it up a little bit. We're getting ready to wrap up. It's been a kind of intense conversation tonight, as usual. So I want to ask you this question: what's the first thing that you grab in the morning? What's the first thing you put your hand on in the morning after you didn't say your prayers? Hopefully, what's the first thing you reach
Nah,
for?
I didn't want to take. I'm guilty, man. I'm guilty. The first thing I grab in the morning is my cell phone. I'm
That
guilty.
sounds about what I've heard a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you this. What is your greatest, what do you think is your weakness? Your greatest weakness?
You know, really, to be honest with you, my greatest weakness is my greatest blessing.
And what is
My
that?
love, my extreme love for people. It can
That's a
bless me and it can
weakness?
curse me, because what the weakness of that is, because people know my heart, they take advantage of me. They do.
Okay.
And what happens is, because first of all, if somebody has a need, I would, one of those things we say in the Bahamas, cut off your nose to spoil your face. Sometimes I
Mm-hmm.
do everything in my power to help somebody meet a need. And
Okay.
this is where my wife come into play, because my
Yeah,
wife see
because
where
she
I
has
don't
to
see.
exercise the wisdom.
Absolutely.
Step in.
Absolutely.
Understood.
Absolutely.
Understood. What
Absolutely.
do people notice most about you? What
My
do they
smile.
know? Your
My
smile.
smile.
Okay.
My
All
smile.
right.
That's what I'm known as.
But the smiling pastor, what do you
Yeah.
notice?
Them
Huh?
cheeks in the air. The smile. On
Okay.
my worst day, you're gonna see a smile.
What do you want people to remember about you?
My love for family, my love for faith, and my love for my country.
Mhm.
But the
Family,
number
faith,
but
country.
the number one thing is my love for my family, which is because of my faith. I love my family, and I'm talking my wife, my children, my brothers, my dad. I just love people, but my love for my family, especially my immediate family, because that is my greatest responsibility.
When you need to get away, where do you go?
The social media.
Okay. Okay.
I talked to Lundy. I talked to Lundy. And I thought, oh, but seriously, my down moment. I walk now. I walk a lot. So I take me a 4-mile walk almost daily. That's a lot of
Mhm.
meditation time. But my
Sure.
greatest thing outside of that is in the kitchen. I
Mhm.
love to cook. I
Mhm.
just love that. That's not a job for me. That's just something I love to do. So I go to the kitchen and just play around and make something happen. But as far as stealing away, uh, I do that right home. But I'm more big with people around me. I love people around me. I'm a social guy. So
Mhm.
I love big families. I love people around me. I can feed 5,000 every day if the Lord allow me to, and don't see nothing wrong with it because I love to
Mhm.
be around people.
What what is your pet peeves? Like what is that thing that someone can do that really gets on your nerves?
Uh, it takes a lot, but and this just made me and how I was raised. The
Mhm.
one of the worst things I hate, or it's a pet peeve. I don't know if y'all use the word. I can't stand a lousy man.
Okay.
Oh,
What's your
that's a pet peeve.
description of a lousy man?
Huh?
Describe a lousy man.
A man who is able but don't take care of his family. That's
Okay.
lousiness. My daddy taught me that.
Mm-hmm.
My daddy taught me that. But listen, a man's number one pride should be his family.
Mm-hmm.
And when I see children roaming about the place for whatever reason, and got healthy fathers who out here dressing in every type of fashion and don't know if their kids eat, that disturbs me. That boils me because you's a louse. That's how I
Mm-hmm.
was raised. I don't know if I could use that on your show, but I
You
was
can say
raised
it.
like that. You is a louse.
Mm-hmm.
And anytime I see that, that disturbs me. And don't get me wrong, I found out through counsel there could be many reasons why he don't get involved. I'm not getting to all of that.
Right.
But the
Right.
fact that you are able to, and I ain't concerned with the woman and your problems, but that's you. Every
The
man
child.
should take care of his children if he's able to. Every man.
Mhm.
And when I see that, that's one that, man, listen, whoo, that boiled me from top to bottom because I can't stand a lousy man.
Mhm. What do you think opposites attract?
Oh, yeah, me and my wife is different, totally different.
Not
My wife,
differences. I'm talking like complete opposites. Because it's one thing to be different, and it's another thing to be opposite.
hey, Miranda, where we opposite, since you want to use that word.
All right.
My wife, you walk in the room, my wife in there, you wouldn't even know she in there. She in the corner, sitting silent. If I walk in the room, oh, you gonna know I'm in there.
Yes,
if
we can
I
tell you're
listen,
loud.
if
Yeah.
I walk in the room, as soon as I hit the door, you go, oh Jesus, Beckles reach. We opposite. And you know what though? To me, it is so beautiful because, and this is why I think opposites attract. When you are open-minded, it's so beautiful. I've learned a lot from opposite. I learned the way she thinks differently, how she thinks things should ought to be. And sometimes God has used her oppositeness to fine-tune me.
Mhm.
She toned me down a whole lot because she thinks different. She thinks like, for example, if we go into a church and we running late, yeah, you listen now. You be sitting in the back. We gonna sit right here, and you don't say too much, and don't move. She trying to keep me, just the service ain't about you. Let them have their service. You just sit in the back and
I
do your
like her.
listen. So listen. But what's so funny, right? As soon as we get in the back, somebody in the pulpit that recognize me. It's not Reverend Beckles in the back.
Come on up to the front.
So, but I opposite do attract, but it can be a blessing. I've
Mhm.
been fine-tuned so much. I've grown a lot because opposite.
Sure.
Because I'm open to change. Like for example, when I first met my wife, uh, she told me I used to dominate the conversation. So every time we talk, she don't get a word in. So I dominate the conversation. She said, that's not good. That's not respectful. You and somebody having a conversation and you doing all the talking. Every time they open their mouth, you won't finish their sentence. And so guess what I did? When she told me that, I made it my business every time I have a conversation to make myself shut up until it became normal. And then
Mhm.
now I know how to have a real conversation with somebody where I can just listen, let them talk. Then once they talk, I go back to whatever. So there's a lot of fine tuning that happened in my life because of opposite.
Yeah, sure. Thank God. It's called self-awareness. Okay, how does somebody get on? How does somebody get on your good side?
Oh, that's easy, man. Hey, listen, I like to tell jokes. I'm a fun fella. See, people believe because you're a Christian, you should have joy and fun in your life. If you see how I mean, let them be on social media every day. If you follow us every day, people tell us every day. They just come to social media just to get a good laugh. I love fun people.
Mhm.
I think it passes you life. And so if you want to get on my good side, man, just be a positive person. Just be an upbeat, positive person who, regardless of circumstances, you can find hope in it. There's something we can learn from this. Let's pick up the pieces and move forward. Now, don't stay in the slump. You have your moment, but let's go. Let's go. Let's go. And so it's not hard to get on my good side. As long as you're upbeat and ready to roll, let's go. Let's try to make something happen out of it.
Okay. I've never asked anyone this question before, but hey, you're a pastor, so let's go for it. Favorite disciple?
I like Peter.
Why?
Because he'll cuss you in a minute.
That was too obvious. Like, really?
Peter, see, I like Peter because Peter to speak truth. Peter speaks what most people think and was scared to say.
Mm-hmm.
I done told y'all, I don't know the man. Y'all ain't listening. As a matter of fact, I think Peter was a Bahamian. I think Peter was a Bahamian. But no, I like Peter because, not because he cussed, that was just a side joke.
Yeah, sure.
I love Peter because Peter was prepared to just step out there.
Mm-hmm.
Peter just stepped out. Whenever a question was asked, he was the one who wanted to lead the way. And I like anybody who likes to take charge of something. That's it. Take leadership role. Take charge of it. Let's run with it. That's why I like Peter. He had the ability to pick it up and run with it.
Mm-hmm. And then this one, other than Jesus,
mm-hmm.
Who would you like to meet from the past?
Other than Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
Somebody in the Bible?
No, it doesn't have to be in the Bible.
Oh, because I'm going to say I like to meet Paul. I like to meet Paul if it was somebody biblical. But from the past, man, you know what? I don't know a whole lot of people from the past. Mm-hmm. You mean somebody
Anybody, any nationality, any race?
No. But the person I really want to meet, it ain't even really Paul. I want to meet Eve.
Okay. What would that conversation
really
be like? What would that conversation be like?
If I meet Eve right now, the first question I want to ask Eve, what did the devil tell her? How did you let the devil trick you? And I know how you trick Adam. Mm-hmm. That's easy for a woman to do. A woman can easily trick a man. That's easy. That's her nature. She can do that while she sleeps. But I wanted to know what the devil told Eve, so I could find out why she gonna pick the fruit. What was in that conversation? Because she messed us all up.
See, don't let's start a debate here. She didn't mess us up. Okay. Adam was the decision maker. Adam. Okay.
Right. Back to what I say then. Back again to what I say. I may be a decision maker as the CEO, but sometimes that COO has a lot of influence.
She is an influencer, but he still ultimately is the decision maker. Okay. We're not going to debate that because we will be here for the rest of the night. Yeah. Okay. What do you like the least about yourself?
What I like the least? Boy, that's a hard question because I love me. What I like the least about
least about yourself. I told you could say some things tonight that you ain't never said. What do you like the least about yourself? Everybody has at least one thing they don't like about themselves. At least one. Many others for some, but at least one.
This might sound weird to you, right? One of the least things I don't like about myself is I can't dance.
Okay.
I can't dance, and I love to dance, but I can't.
And you say your girls have the rhythm and
Listen,
they love to dance, so it skipped the generation.
They get that from the auntie them and the rest of them, but for some reason, me nor my wife got it.
So it skipped a generation and came to them.
Miranda, I've been in a club one time in my life.
Uh-huh.
My brothers took me to the club after I graduated Hawksville High. When I graduated high school, they called themselves celebrating with me, and they took me to the club. First time walking in the club, I had a little problem. I tried to be with my brothers, but when I see all these people dancing up and sweating up on each other, that's too much going on for me. I can't do it. But I stayed, hang with my brothers. So I was in the corner doing my little thing. My brother said, yo, look, he's a church boy. Let's get him out of here. They pulled me out of the club in 20 minutes. Come, get out. This ain't for you.
So you can't dance because you have no rhythm or
no rhythm.
No rhythm. Okay.
And I'm a Bahamian. I don't know why.
Everybody
I just ain't got it.
No, just because you're Bahamian doesn't mean you have rhythm. That's a misconception. So this is my final question, and let's wrap this up. If you had a choice to choose between Goombay Punch and Coke Soda,
you gotta be crazy.
Which one?
Goombay Punch.
All right now. Hey, high five. You the real true.
Hey, listen to me. Hardcore. Born and raised. I love my country.
All right, so all right, let's go to this. This is the last thing to give you your props. You've been sipping on this Lakers cup all night. So what do you want to say to Lakers fans or foes out there?
Listen, I wanted Lundy to know. I don't know if Zeffy is watching. I don't know if my Nesbitt brothers is watching. But look at that cup. 2020 champions, Lakers. Number 23, LeBron James. And look at my initial. Just personalized cup for me. Because the Lakers are the champs. Some of y'all don't like it. I'm going to sip on y'all.
And on that note, we bring to an end another adult conversation for mature audiences only. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Pastor Edwin Beckles. I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And I'd like to thank all of you for hanging with us tonight. Make sure to share, get some laughter in somebody's life who may be feeling a little down, and somebody who needs some encouragement, because there are a lot of highlights in the conversation that he would have encouraged people, particularly pastors who may be in ministry and facing some challenges that they need to exercise some wisdom in overcoming. Thank you, Mrs. Beckles, Tiffany, for popping up and saying a little something to contribute to the conversation. I look forward to meeting you. Let me see any last comments from people out here. Okay. Oh, Warren talking about Goombay Punch or Vitamalt.
Warren is Haitian, man.
Okay. So Daniel Duncombe says, it's good to see you, Pastor.
Love you.
Karen says, great conversation tonight. Evangelist Jeanette Bryce Gibson says his heart was great. I don't know, maybe Peter she was referring to. And a lot of people are agreeing with you that they love Peter too. They love Peter too. So thank you guys for hanging with me. You saying something else?
Randall, let me tell you this. And I can let you go tonight. You know what my number one ambition was?
Okay. No, I don't know.
Before knowing I knew I was called the pastor, but you know what my number one ambition was?
What was that?
I wanted to be the Prime Minister of the Bahamas.
Oh, did you really?
Yes.
You never told me that.
No, I'm telling you now. When I was 12 years old, I'll send you the picture later. I met Sir Lyndon Pinland.
Okay.
I went to the House of Assembly, went to the Sir Lyndon's office. He and I had a conversation with a few other students. Mm-hmm. And I asked Sir Lyndon how was he able to run the country from Nassau and making decisions in Inagua and all them other places. And he said to me, he said, son, no, that's how it looked. But I got other people all around who works with me. And they help me make these decisions. I left Sir Lyndon's office, went back to school 2 days later, and I went in my classroom and I picked my cabinet. I picked my cabinet to run the Bahamas. Did Lyndon make the cabinet? Did Lyndon make it? I got the picture.
Did Lyndon make it to the cabinet?
Lyndon would have been the governor general because he was much older than you were. He should have been the governor general. I picked the cabinet to tell all of them, you're going to be my minister of youth sports, my minister of education, my attorney general. I picked the whole cabinet.
Okay.
Because my
So
number
you got
one
to pick
ambition.
a cabinet at your church.
Huh?
You got to
I
pick a
guess
cabinet at your church. You did it anyway.
So, hey, but to all of my people out there, I love y'all, man. Y'all be blessed. Y'all stay encouraged. And Miranda, thank you for allowing me to come and share with you tonight.
Wait, I got to give a shout out to my dad in ministry, Bishop Godfrey R. Williams. Bishop, thanks.
Hey,
Thanks
listen,
for having with us.
That bishop, that pastor there, man, he was a tremendous blessing and still is in my life. I will tell people, if people who know Bishop Williams the way I do, I modeled my ministry after him. Bishop Williams have a heart of gold, and it's a lot of stuff that I learned from him. Like you and I had a conversation with that. Sometimes you don't win the battle, but you win the war. I've seen Bishop Williams done things to people who did him wrong, but I'm not sure I was prepared to do. But through him doing that, it taught me how to handle people, even in ministry, who try to do me wrong. He taught me how to handle people like that just by watching what he did.
Awesomeness. Big shout out to Bishop. We love you. Keep on keeping on. You've been an inspiration for sure to me all of my Christian life. And I thank God for the impact and the influence that you've had on me. Love you forever and a day. So good night, everybody. Thanks once again for hanging with me. It's certainly been a pleasure. Join me again next week. I'll be talking to Joba. Listen to this name, Joba Thomasina Bo Mendez. You don't want to miss a story. It's just a powerful story of a second chance. That's what I'm calling it. So tune in again.
That's going to be great.
Next Sunday night. Thanks for hanging with me once again, and have a beautiful week, y'all. Good night.
Love y'all.